Listen, folks, putting random fish with your betta is not aesthetic. It's a crime scene waiting to happen. Let's rank tank mates before somebody gets tail napped. If your betta is the unpredictable hot girl at the party, Ember tetras are the artsy mutuals who don't make eye contact, and they leave before the drama starts. These tiny orange neon puffs are everything. Peaceful, pretty, and fast enough to dodge side eyes and mood swings. They swim in tight little squads, and honestly, they just want to vibe. They're not here to assert dominance or flex, they're here to swim pretty and mind their business. Real talk though, they're schooling fish. And no, not put 3 in and call it a schooling. We're talking about 6 minimum where they start glitching emotionally. That collective energy helps them feel safe and keeps your betta from targeting anybody solo. Also, they love plants and dim lighting, so if your tank looks like a cozy Pinterest board, they will absolutely thrive. They're low drama and high aesthetic, but they still need space to breathe, which puts them comfortably in the A tier. Almost perfect, just don't cram them in a shoebox and expect miracles. Soft, gentle, emotionally intelligent. No, I'm not describing your last relationship, you know that. What I'm saying is basically if your fish journaled and posted healing era Instagram carousels, it would be the honey gourami. These fish are peaceful, slow moving, and honestly just want a calm, leafy tank where they can contemplate life without confrontation. Now, technically, they're from the same family as bettas. They're both labyrinth breathers, so surface tension can build. Think of it as 2 introverts accidentally showing up to the same quiet coffee shop. They'll either vibe in silence or weirdly get passive-aggressive about who gets the best corner. Give them 20 gallons or more, and 20 gallons isn't a 20-gallon long, and lots of sight breaks like floating plants, decor, and whatever looks cute, and they'll probably avoid each other entirely. But in smaller tanks, things can get, this town ain't big enough for the both of us, very fast. And once that happens, it's no longer soft boy energy. It's subtle shade and sudden aggression. So, for all that nuance and potential peace, but a slight chance of reality show messiness, honey gourami falls into the B tier. Okay, these dudes are straight up weird in the best possible way. Kuhli loaches. These are little bendy spaghetti snakes that live under the radar, literally. They burrow and they hide and they do secret tunnel stuff like they're playing hardcore survival mode. You might not even see them for the first week and wonder if you just hallucinated the purchase. They're peaceful, don't touch the surface zone, and they couldn't care less about your betta's main character energy. Sounds perfect, right? Well, here's the tea. They actually prefer cooler temps than bettas, and we're not talking barely noticeable, we're talking one of us is sweating and the other's wearing a hoodie. That mismatch is not ideal, as you can imagine. You might get it to work, but one fish is always going to be vibing less. Plus, if your substrate's gravel instead of soft sand, coolies start giving uncomfy and slightly resentful energy, so yeah. Anyways, they're social and they need a group, but the bigger the group, the more bioload and the more space you need. So, while they do look really cool and they stir up zero drama, they're actually going to fall squarely into C tier. Great in theory, but the logistics don't always add up unless you're committed to custom temp diplomacy. These are the tank's emotional support animals. They're sweet, pure, and they stay in their lane. Corys be vibing exclusively on the bottom floor, snuffling around for snacks like peaceful little gravel pigs. They don't care about dominance. They don't pull stunts. They're just trying to have a good time and not get yelled at. I respect that. They also live for the group chat. Don't ever put a single Cory in your tank unless you want them depressed and ghosting life. Get 6 or more, give them some smooth substrate, and they'll be your tank's serotonin factory. Plus, bettas usually ignore them entirely. Out of sight, out of fight. Literally everyone in the fish keeping community agrees. Cory catfish are the gold standard for compatibility. That's why they sit pretty high up in the S tier. No notes, just perfect cohabitation energy. Brings a tear to my eye. Now imagine a shrimp that's both a cleaner and a potential snack. No, for the fish, not for you. That's the daily tightrope that Amanos walk. They're the janitors of the tank, scrubbing algae, cleaning leaf litter, doing unpaid labor like some weird crustacean Cinderella. They're beefier and less colorful than cherry shrimp, which actually works to their favor. Bettas are less tempted to chase them, but, and this is a huge but, it still happens. Some bettas are chill, others enter, I will eat this crunchy man, as the second they see antenna. If your bet is food motivated and chaotic neutral, even Amanos aren't safe. You can hedge your bets with lots of hiding spots and plant coverage, but it's still a roll of the dice. For that reason, Amanos land in C tier. They're functional, sometimes ignored, sometimes they're hunted. Whether they survive long term is between your betta and whatever petty grudge it holds that day. Okay, no, no. Unless you're building an elaborate 4-foot wide tank with line of sight breaks, visual barriers, and enough hiding spots to qualify as a fish jungle, do not do this. Male bettas don't just get into scuffles, they straight up try to end each other. It's not dominance, it's destruction. Even peaceful males will eventually snap. It might be in 5 minutes or 5 months, but it will happen. And I know the comments are going to be loaded with, well, I've seen this be pulled off before, but those tank setups, they require PhD level planning, monk-like patience, and a tank setup that costs more than your laptop, alright? So unless you're trying to make a documentary called 2 Bettas, 1 Tank, a mistake. Leave this one alone. E tier, or extremely avoid unless you're insane and have insurance. Okay, but Harlequins are the definition of low-key reliable. These are the fish you invite to your wedding because they're never messy, always dressed appropriately, and they bring vibes that help your tank feel balanced. They're peaceful, fast enough to avoid betta beef, and school-tight enough that they won't get picked off individually. But let's be real, these fish need space. A 10-gallon tank ain't it. If you're not rolling with at least 20 gallons, they start feeling claustrophobic, and therefore they act weird. If your group's too small, same deal. They're pack fish, so don't hit them with the you and one buddy nonsense. And they also don't mind mid-level swimming, which usually keeps them out of the betta's prime flex zone at the surface. So the two species rarely even run into each other unless your betta goes as a full hall monitor. Honestly, all things considered, B tier. Chill, dependable, beautiful, just don't cheap out on the space. Now this one's like the grumpy little tank gremlin you don't see coming. Clown plecos are funky bottom huggers who lurk under driftwood like they pay rent there. They're solitary nocturnal fish and they literally chew on wood, not metaphorically. They gotta chew driftwood or their teeth get jacked up. They do not go near the surface. They do not interact with anyone. They do not care about your betta's mood swings or main character arc. Honestly, they're that roommate who always pays rent on time, doesn't make noise, and leaves notes on the fridge like, clean the filter, hope your day was good. Only thing is, they need a tank that's at least 20 gallons. And again, preferably with actual driftwood, because without it, they will spiral. And you do not want a sad pleco spiraling. With all that handled, A tier. Quiet, functional, and about as involved in drama as a houseplant. Now, mollies are wild cards. On paper, they're supposed to be community-friendly live bearers, but in practice, some mollies are straight up bullies with main villain energy, especially the males. They'll chase your betta. They'll slap its fins and pull alpha nonsense unprompted. But that said, there are peaceful mollies, but you won't know which one you got until it either minds its business or go full gladiator. Plus, they do prefer slightly harder, more alkaline water than bettas do. You can try to split the difference, but it's never optimal. One fish will be vibed and the other will be spiritually checked out. They're also very social, so if you don't give them a group, they'll project all their issues, yeah, you guessed it, right onto your betta. So yeah, they're technically okay, but it's giving, I can fix him energy. C tier, compatible on paper, problematic in practice. Cherry shrimp are adorable. They're little red buttons of algae cleaning goodness. Everyone wants to put them in a betta tank because the color contrast slaps, and the aesthetics are immaculate. But here's the brutal truth. To your betta, they're just crunchy enrichment, a live-action treat, a literal moving snack. And that red color doesn't help, makes them more visible. Even in heavily planted tanks with hiding spaces, there's still a strong chance that your betta, it's gonna clock them and go full Jurassic Park. Some people do get lucky, but most end up wondering where their shrimp went and hearing faint crunching noises in the night. So unless you're breeding shrimp and you can afford to lose a few, or your betta's a lazy soft girl with no chase drive, don't risk it. D tier, cute, but doomed. Yo, rice fish have quiet kid energy. They're chill, non-confrontational, and perfectly happy doing their own thing without getting in anyone's business. Sounds great for a betta tank, right? Here's the catch. They like cooler water. Bettas want their tank around 78 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and rice fish, they're out here thriving at like 72 to 74. So if you're trying to meet in the middle, neither fish ends up living their best life. It's like the aquatic version of dating someone who wants to keep the AC at 67 while you're freezing under the blankets. Sure, some people make it work by choosing very specific strains or adjusting the tank setup, but it's a balancing act and it's not a beginner-friendly one. They do stay peaceful though, and if the temps were aligned, they'd be vibing hard. So we'll put them in C tier. Not a disaster, but not ideal unless you're the kind of person who enjoys calibrating thermometers weekly. Yeah. These fish are all about delicate energy. Thin fins, light shimmer, and absolute ballerina vibes. They don't pick fights. They don't start drama. They just kind of vibe being ethereal. The good news is most bettas ignore them. Threadfins are slender, non-threatening, and they stick to the middle and lower levels of the tank. They're also fast enough to pull a full GTA getaway if things get tense. They do need calm water and a decent group to feel secure though, and their fins can get nipped if your betta's feeling spicy and unmedicated. But generally, the two species do a pretty good job at ignoring each other. Also, fun bonus, they tend to act as dither fish, which helps anxious bettas feel more confident about exploring. Emotional support squad? Maybe. But that's why they're sitting in B tier. They're mostly peaceful, a little delicate, and only risky if your betta has issues with glittery roommates. This shrimp right here is built different. Unlike cherry or Amano shrimp, bamboo shrimp are big. Like, you sure that's a shrimp? Big. Yeah. They filter feed by waving their little fans in the water, catching micro stuff. It's a whole vibe. Bettas don't usually mess with them because honestly they look weird and kind of intimidating. They're too big to be food and too chill to be rivals. It's like if a monk moved into your apartment and spent all day meditating in the corner. And you're just there like, so you don't eat hot Cheetos? Okay, but, and this is important, they need flow. Bamboo shrimp rely on strong water currents to eat, so if your filter's weak or your tank's too mellow, they'll starve quietly and tragically. So yeah, they're pretty much the safest shrimp to add to a betta tank if you can meet their weird little needs. And that puts them at B tier. Not effortless, but highly compatible once you know what they're about. This combo right here, guys, is a swimming red flag. People love to pair them because they're both beginner fish, which is a cursed sentence if I've ever heard one. Goldfish are cold water, high waste machines, and bettas are tropical, delicate, and will straight up spiral if kept in goldfish conditions. Also, goldfish are little gremlins. I mean, they nip fins, eat anything that fits in their mouth, which is a lot, and they never stop pooping. You think you're signing up for a chill aquatic friendship. But actually, it's a one-sided harassment situation. The betta ends up stressed out, fins shredded, and water quality nosedives like a crashed crypto coin. Haktua, anybody? Yeah, even fancy goldfish, same story. Doesn't matter how frilly their tails are, they're just bullies in silk robes. That's why this pairing lives eternally in F tier. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 fish flakes. Alright, I've got one for all you overachievers out there. Discus are stunning, majestic, and absolutely unhinged when it comes to maintenance. They want high temps, pristine water, daily water changes, and the emotional support of at least 5 other discus to feel secure. They're basically the high maintenance influencers of the aquarium world. And they coexist with a betta? Technically, yes. If you have a 75 plus gallon setup, dialed in parameters, and a betta who doesn't mind sharing the spotlight. But let's be real. That is a lot of ifs for a fish that costs more than your electricity bill. Also, discus are sensitive. If your betta so much as gives them a dirty look, they'll go full anxiety spiral. On the flip side though, more timid betta might get intimidated by a group of discus, so there are a lot of factors to consider. All that said, if you're running a tank that looks like an underwater spa, you might pull it off, but for most hobbyists, C tier. It can work, but expect emotional damage and a whole lot of water testing. Dwarf gourami are cute. They're colorful. They're also rage-filled little chaos gremlins with zero tolerance for other anabantoids, which includes, you guessed it, ding ding ding, your betta. Both species are surface breathers, they're both territorial, and they're equally petty. You put them in the same tank and it's only a matter of time before one decides it's a turf war. And when that happens, expect shredded fins, dominance battles, and more tension than a group chat after someone says, "We need to talk." They don't even pretend to get along. The aggression's baked in. You could give them a mansion-sized tank with 400 hiding spots, and they'd still find a way to beef. Listen to me here. For your own sanity and the health of both fish, this pairing belongs in E tier. It looks cute on paper, but it ends in bloodshed. Oh, you thought the pea puffer was just a tiny innocent blob of joy. That's adorable. Say goodbye to your betta. These little demons are hand down some of the most deceptively violent fish in the hobby. Pea puffers are solo artists with rage issues. Small they may be, but they pack enough chaos to turn a peaceful tank into an aquatic war zone. They bite fins, chase everything, and they take nothing seriously. Putting a betta with a pea puffer is not cohabitation, it is fish roulette. You are one ignored tail chomp away from tragedy. People try it, they post the results, and spoiler alert, it always ends with somebody missing body parts. Even other pea puffers struggle to live with pea puffers. They don't tolerate anyone, which is why they sit deep in the F tier. Cute in the pet store, absolutely unhinged in the tank. Now, for some peace. Dwarf pencilfish are skinny, chill little schoolers that hover in the middle zone like background characters who just want to get along. They're slow swimmers, peaceful, and they don't sparkle too much, which is great because flashiness tends to trigger betta beef. They prefer groups of 6 or more, and while they don't win any awards for charisma, they're amazing team players. Just give them a 20-gallon setup with plants and hiding spots, and they will fill in the vibe without causing friction. They're also known to dither, meaning they'll help your betta feel a little more secure by casually existing without being annoying. Kind of like that one roommate who always is there but never in your space. Yeah. All in all, they're low-key, low drama, and high reward. B tier, solid, dependable, no unhinged energy detected. The name does these guys dirty because these little guys are actually super wholesome, despite sounding like a rejected Mortal Kombat character. Least killifish are tiny, peaceful, and low-key adorable. They're also North America's smallest live bear, fun fact, which means they're not out here popping out broods every 5 seconds like guppies on espresso. They're not flashy, they're not chaotic, they just chill near the top of the middle of the tank, eat small foods, and occasionally give birth without making it a whole reality show. Their vibes are quiet librarian. Also, they don't pester bettas or get in their space. They're just small enough that even an insecure betta won't feel threatened. But, and this is the key here, they do need stable water and soft currents. Also, if you're only keeping a pair, make sure it's in a nano setup. In bigger tanks, go for a peaceful group to help them feel a little more secure. Overall, B tier. Minimal drama, maximum cute. A vibe, just not a flashy one. Give it up for your micro-schooling icons, chili rasboras, dwarf rasboras, and their tiny cousins, their aesthetic goals. Yeah. They're tiny, they're peaceful, and they zip around like glitter confetti in water. They bring that clean tank energy, and they make your betta look even more regal by contrast. Now, yes, they can get hunted if your betta's on a power trip, but the key here is group size. Don't plop in 3 and call it a squad, you need like 8 to 10 minimum. Ideally, a tank that's 15 to 20 gallons is going to have plenty of plants too. The group behavior is going to give them confidence, and the movement makes it a little bit harder for your betta to target just one. Also, they're pretty fast, like dodge your betta's morning rage fast. That agility helps a lot in tense moments. So yeah, if you're playing it smart and providing cover, they're a solid B tier. Potentially prey, but usually too fast and too non-threatening to get clocked. Now, cherry barbs, these are the middle kids of community tanks. They're active, colorful, and sociable, but they don't go looking for drama. They're also surprisingly tolerant of different water parameters, which is pretty great when you're trying to find tank mates that can match a betta's needs without full-on spreadsheet planning. Now, here's the catch. These fish need space, not because they're aggressive, but because they like to stretch out and form their little social circles. A 10-gallon tank ain't gonna cut it. You need 20 gallons minimum in a group of 5 or more so they don't start acting twitchy. But once you got the setup, they thrive. They swim mid-level, stay out of the betta's grill, and mostly just want snacks and good lighting. Bonus, their red color complements the betta's flair without stepping on its aesthetic. All things considered, cherry barbs fall right into B tier. Solid pick for medium-sized setups, just don't expect fireworks. It's a calm coexistence and a little bitty splash of red. Rummy nose tetras are the final boss of peaceful schooling fish. These guys are cohesive, non-aggressive, and surprisingly fast when necessary. That iconic red nose isn't just for show, they use it as a stress indicator. If the color fades, your water quality's off. Basically, they're living pH test strips. Glorious. They're one of few fish that actually schools pretty tightly in formation. It's a whole aesthetic. A betta usually will ignore them because 1, they're fast, and 2, the school's kind of intimidating in size when kept properly. That's why keeping a big group, is non-negotiable. They need pristine water, a 20-plus gallon tank, and a calm environment to thrive. But when they do, chef's kiss. Zero chaos, just synchronized swimmers floating through life. For being drama-free, functional, and surprisingly helpful for tank health monitoring, Rummy nose tetras earn an A tier badge. Not only do they work, they elevate the entire vibe of the tank. If this guide saved your betta from an unprovoked shrimp assassination, hit that like button. Drop your tank setup in the comments, especially if you pulled off one of those cursed combos. I want to hear about it. And subscribe for more fish content with facts and some feral energy. Until next time, keep your water clean, your fish peaceful, and your betta out of jail.